All right. Welcome to the very first episode of the Change Setters podcast, a podcast where we explore the ever evolving landscape of change management through the voices of experienced practitioners. Talking about experienced practitioners, we have one in the podcast today. So, welcome, Nuria.
Thank you.
And I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for, taking the leap of faith with me and joining me in my very first episode. So, welcome.
Very, very happy that you decided to go ahead with this and break barriers and, open up doors for other people as well. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind. Yeah, let me introduce you to our audience in case they haven't, checked out your LinkedIn profile yet. But for those of you who are listening, I've known Nuria now for the past few months, and she's an absolutely amazing woman. She has worn various different hats throughout her entire career as UX specialist, sales partner lead, and change manager as well. On top of all that, she's also a life coach and a mom to three beautiful kids. So I think we have a lot to learn from Nuria today. So let's get to know our guest. I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions just so that we warm up to this. It is a first episode, so no pressure.
Sure.
Um, all right, Nuria, tell me, are there any books or podcasts or blogs that you've been really enjoying at the moment that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I guess I have a specific genre I'm kind of like really obsessed about with at the moment. So the TV program Chernobyl, Last of Us, and The Handmaid's Tale. They're sort of like dystopian, kind of dramatic things, and it's about change, either technological or different kinds of disasters happening, and then how humans react to that. So it's actually a very much a profound human storytelling journey that you go into. And I don't just stop at the TV shows. I like to go into the
Mhm.
podcasts of how that was made, how the
Yeah,
music was, decided on, the casting,
yeah.
the costumes. Like I go really into the nitty gritty of
The
everything I go
behind
into.
the scenes, that's the
Yes,
fun
yeah.
part,
I
right?
want to know how something was filmed and understand all the different angles. And I guess that comes from being a service designer as well, to understand all the different players and the different angles of people coming together and creating one successful story. So yeah, I think that sums it up. Just anything that I can see and look into and to understand better.
That's really cool. Is there one specific that you want to reference here to the audience that they should absolutely check out because you love it?
Oh, definitely The Handmaid's Tale. I've read both books. I think it's one of those things that, as definitely as females, you should look into, because it's not futuristic or dystopian at all. It's all
Hmm.
based on real stuff.
Hmm.
And also it definitely as male allies, you need to pay attention to what's happening in the world. And
Yeah.
so I was born in the US, and definitely looking at the politics of that country, it makes me a little bit anxious. So I'm very happy to be in Belgium at the moment, but
Hmm.
the world is kind of evolving and changing, obviously. So yeah, The Handmaid's Tale would be my pick.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. And the second question, to get to know you a little bit better, is there any recent project that you've worked on that you're so proud of that you want to share with us today?
Oh well, I guess not super recent, but when the pandemic hit, I was a UX designer at Google, working as a partner manager for agencies working in UX, and definitely everybody remembers. I don't know if the shop is open. Like I need to check online or go to Google Maps to see if the store is open and stuff. And so nobody had like the best practices of how to do that really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I rather asked for forgiveness than permission. So I very quickly put up a team and helped a group of people come up with live streams, and it very quickly went to 77 countries. And we had great traction to help all those businesses kind of like put out the best UX examples of banners on their website. So I do think that in moments of crisis, like either you freeze or you take action. And I think regardless of the result there or the impact or how many countries looked into it, I think it's more of the proactiveness or how do I help? How do I serve? So I think I would be most inclined to bring that one up.
And look at all the value that you brought, while everyone was freaking out in such an uncertain moment, like how much value you brought to all those businesses, huh? That's a really remarkable work that you did there.
Yeah, thank you. And definitely it's a team effort, but I definitely went out of the comfort zone and paying from my own pocket certain things. And like, I don't think that making decisions, I don't believe in regretting anything that you do. So it was definitely needed. And even if you get in trouble, it's better to do something.
You got so much value. I don't see how you could have gotten into trouble.
It's because I paid certain things. But yeah, it was necessary. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for sharing, Nuria. All right, so let's get into the heat, into the depth of the session today. So we've talked a little bit about change manager and the work that it is, the effort that it is, the impact that it brings, and we were talking about how a shoe inspired one of your change management programs. So do you want to start talking about that and how that came into being and the whys? And
Sure. I'll try to keep it short because it is a sort of a talk of like 30, 40 minutes that I've given sometimes. So I'm just going to really try to narrow it down. But I wanted to move into change management for some time, and I was an UX designer, let's say also project manager in a creative agency, and they wanted to put a APM on site, sort of consulting for Johnson & Johnson for some time. And I thought, I don't specifically want to do this, but maybe, there was something came up and I said, I have 3 months. I'll probably find a project that it has more to do with this, and then I'll jump on it and learn some stuff, and, maybe something happens. So I went to lunch, started meeting people as consultants do, first day, you're like, don't know anything. And I started to notice how there were some problems. And so I do think that curiosity is your biggest tool in the toolbox here if you're a change manager. So I started asking questions. I started understanding the needs. And I very quickly saw that certain solutions people were proposing were shortcuts and they were not going deep enough. So short story is 3 departments not working together in a good collaboration. And there was a process no one was following, and they just wanted to make a very nice YouTube video in which someone's hand is like making the process, and then in 10 minutes the process, and that's it. And I thought, creative agency, sure, we can do that. It's gonna be like, I don't know, 10K or whatever, and you put it on YouTube, great, But is that going to help the whole situation about people getting sick, burnout, not wanting to collaborate, all these different underlying issues? Or do you want me to take a look? And I sold myself very confidently, I think.
Yeah.
And it was a journey of 3 departments, impacted maybe 300 people. lasted about 6 months, and it was just me, myself, and I. And I did shadowing, and I did role playing, and I was like the fly on the wall in many meetings and board meetings. And I just definitely saw there were 4 key areas that were not working.
Mm-hmm.
And fine, we defined those areas, and now I'm like, okay, so I've done all these interviews, right? I've gathered all this data. I know there's 4 problems, and then I'm like, how the hell am I going to solve that? I don't
Yeah.
know. So I stepped away from my desk, because I think the desk is a very dangerous place to be sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
because you just fixate and try to get to the solution. And it was about Christmas time. And so I'm just, like a regular person, checking out certain items to buy. And then it sort of hit me that the problem they were trying to solve was 3 departments take about 6 months to come up with concepts for events, so medical events.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 150 emails, and people don't like it. And then I just thought, wait a minute, what if a medical event was the same thing as a shoe, and you just had a checkout, because
Yeah.
there's certain things that never are going to change. Like, for a shoe, you have the color and you have the size and no. But for a medical event, it's the same. You have a place, you have speakers, you have a date, you have costs, you have a
That's so good.
venue. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many things that are not going to change, that
Yeah.
would be like the first step of your checkout, and then create that collaboration further. So I prototyped a tool, got some developers involved from their side, and we started role playing and testing it out. And so basically, one meeting using that tool, 4 steps checkout, reduced 6 months of blah blah and 150 emails, and they still use it today. And it's just a
Wow.
prototype. I mean, it was never designed or anything.
That's fantastic.
And I got permission to talk about that. And so basically I brought it to one of the UX meetups, and then someone picked it up, and then that's how I ended up working at Google, basically.
Wow, wow, wow. There's so many questions in my mind just as I'm
Go
hearing
ahead.
you
Go
speak. But
ahead.
um, let's just take a moment to kind of focus on the skill sets, that were
Mm,
crucial to putting this in place. What do you think were the pillars to
yeah,
in regards to skills? What do you need to have to be a good consultant, a good change manager?
right.
What helped you putting this into place?
I'm going to say one that is pretty much a buzzword, but fake it till you make it. Sometimes you don't have the confidence, sometimes you don't have
Yeah,
the skills, but you really feel in your gut you somehow want to serve, and you want to change things, and you're like
yeah,
passionate about it. So
yeah,
even if you haven't had like tons of experience, like just go for it. The worst thing that can happen is you're not going to break anything, right? So we're not
yeah,
heart surgeons. Just take a
yeah.
chance. So I would say, like, be a little bit fearless and fake it till you make it. Second thing would be, the business is not going to find you. You need to
Mm,
go and speak with people. You need to mingle. You need to know and listen to what their problems are. So
yeah,
we do have this kind of great superpower that if you're an external person, people are going to talk to you way easier, because they're like, this is what's going on, because you're
yeah,
not part of the politics
yeah,
involved, and you're not part of teams. And if you're a consultant, you fly in, you propose, and then you fly out,
yeah.
so so I just think,
It's a strength, isn't it? I often forget I'm a consultant myself, and I also often forget that power of
mm,
people confiding in you.
yeah.
Just that is true. That is something we need to
Yeah, so
work
I would say fearless, good listener, try to find the business. So try to understand
on.
people's underlying needs. And if it's outside of your skill set, because, in this case, I'm not a developer, I know how to prototype, I know how to get it, visible. So like, this is how it should work, but
Yeah.
I don't have those skills. Well, then you need to recruit people, right? You need to
Mm,
influence people to basically go with your vision and try to resolve for that. And then the last step, I would say, I think it took on well to do that, train the trainer and pass on the knowledge when I left, because I recruited the haters very early on. And I was like, if this is not going to work for someone that is non-digital, or maybe, if you know the color codes, if someone's really red, like, is this going to work for you? If you're really blue, is this going to work for you? If you're very senior, junior, like I tested all the different elements that I felt were going to be blockers before the implementation.
Yeah.
And I got everybody on board who I felt was going to be a blocker if I left. So I do think you need to anticipate. And so I guess that would be it. So to sum it up, be fearless, good listener, be a little bit bold, even if it's not your skill set, and influence others because you want to serve.
For sure, for sure. You mentioned one that I just love. It's influencing the sneezers. Have you ever heard about that term? I really love that one, because once you have someone who really hates your initiative, whatever it is that you're trying to share, but that understands the impact that you want to bring and the added value, and you have that person next to you, isn't it the most rewarding thing?
That's absolutely great. Yeah.
I think that's
It's
always
the
the
best.
highlight.
But also, I mean, they have a superpower, maybe. Maybe they're seeing things you're not seeing. And so they have the ability to maybe show you your own blind spot, because maybe you're married to the solution rather than finding the truth. And you're like, no, I really want to develop this, or I really want to roll this out. And they're like, well, wait a minute, So I do feel like party poopers are needed. You need to listen to them as well. So, and then definitely that superpower of we're external people, so we're there to gather that information that oftentimes people don't want to listen to. And I don't know, this is one of my highlights, basically going to a board of directors, young female as myself, and just going like, let me tell you what's wrong with your company. That is so fun to do that.
Yeah. That's really good. Another thing that I wanted to ask you about is, you've talked about it briefly. How did you implement the change, right, of this new checkout system? You already mentioned really shortly that you went and you got buy-in from everyone. We all know how sponsorship is one of the main keys of change management, basically. But what are there phases or steps maybe that are worth highlighting here that helped you in your change management process?
So I think we all know that nothing's going to happen if goals aren't aligned, right? If you as a consultant have a goal, but the internal people have a different goal, it's just not going to happen. So finding out what the goal is for everybody who's going to be a sponsor, potential sponsor, is key. And in my case, I really remember having that conversation with this person that went, can you make me this, nice little YouTube film? I'll give you this budget and that's it. And he turned around and I did say, sure, I can do that. Or do you want a promotion? And then I just can see this person turning around at me and going like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I kind of felt like that's where this person was going. And it's, I mean, sometimes it's the promotion they're chasing, but sometimes there's like, I found a lot of people who were deeply concerned about how others were feeling, why people were burning out, going on holidays, doing things that were not bringing them any satisfaction. And so I do think that you will find different needs being served by these sponsors, and you just need to align to those needs. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen, because we all know change management is not about the technology, maybe not even about the finances part of things. It's about the people and the mindset. And if you understand the underlying needs in that mindset, then you're able to move mountains.
Yeah. That's really good. And it goes together with also understanding why, It's like Simon Sinek's, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but how he just focuses on the why first.
Yes.
Telling people why we're going to do this, and explaining the link with the overall strategy, what's in it for the company, but also what's in it for them personally. how that is such a powerful message, isn't it?
And I think you and I have had conversations in the past in which we uncover the reasons or what people are saying. People tell you, they tell
Yeah.
you their
Yeah.
why. They
Yeah.
use the words to tell you what is important to them if you listen carefully. So
Yeah.
I do think that you don't need to be like a super detective at it. You just have to really listen and pay attention to what someone's saying, and
Mm.
it's like an iceberg. They're giving you a tiny tip of or hints of what is really underneath, and once you really uncover that, it's just very easy to craft a sentence like, or do you want to get promoted? And then the person's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
So that
Amazing.
really taps into that kind of need. So I do think, if anything, people give away their goals when they're speaking. They give
Mm.
away what is valuable to them. You just really need to tap into the words they're saying.
That's really good. Yeah, that's really key for in change management, especially in the beginning, right? As you're gaining sponsorship and you're talking about your project, and gaining gaining
Yeah, sure, I get it. Oh yeah.
momentum. Cool. Any other steps that you remember that were crucial to implementing this worth mentioning?
Um, so yeah, I remember the sponsor. I remember understanding. Yeah, one of the things is, so the process wasn't working, right? Because it was top down. Because
Yeah.
no one wants to just follow unless you're in school. Like that's just not,
Yeah.
adults
No.
don't want to follow stuff. So
No.
one of the things I used, because I was working at Young and Rubicam, is they have this framework called the Octa, and it's the
Mm,
objective, challenge, the truth, and then the answer. And usually people just go straight into the answer. They're like, oh, we need a new tool, or we need a
yeah.
new app or something. And it's like, no, 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 no. Let's backtrack and find out the objective. What is a challenge? And for me, the key piece was the truth. And the truth was, no one wants to act out a process that's been designed by someone else, in which
Mm,
their collaboration wasn't asked for, in
mm,
which their feedback isn't implemented. So I wanted to create that personalized process for them
that's so
by
good.
including them. So
Mm,
no one was asking me that, but basically, yeah, the 300 people who were impacted were all considered, talked to. It was a process of 6 months, like I said,
yeah.
just myself included. But everybody at the end felt this is our process and it's not a
Mm,
someone else's process. And
mm,
therefore, I'm invested.
yeah.
So yeah, that would be sort of like the sponsors, the knowing and aligning to their goals, but also definitely the truth of the matter is, if you don't involve large pieces of the organization and you just roll out certain things, that's not going to happen because we're
No.
adults and we don't want to follow rules. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That is such a crucial key, but for everything in life, like if you want to do something in a collective matter, you
yeah.
need to involve people. And
Oh,
it's
I learned this tool and I use it in everything. Like with my husband, he doesn't know
yeah,
I'm doing it, but I'm like, okay, what is the truth here? What is an insight that is going to help me move this behavior? So
exactly.
yeah, it's kind of sneaky when you know how to use it, but yeah, it's a very interesting tool to think about. So it's
Mm.
again, objective, challenge, the truth, and then the answer.
That's so good. If you knew about this, guys, as you're listening, comment below. Tell
Oh
us that you
yeah.
knew about it, right? That way we create awareness around this methodology. That's so good, Nuria. All right. Well, thank you so much for, sharing a little bit about this super cool project and how you got involved in it. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I really think that there are things that we can carry on into, our day-to-day experiences. Um, all right. So as we're closing up, I just wanted to ask you whether we can still gain a little bit more wisdom from you, Nuria. And I don't know if have any last tip and trick or a piece of advice you want to leave to the audience today.
Yeah, sure. So when I was asked to talk about this shoe initiative or whatever you want to call it, which I'm sure the people at Johnson and Johnson have no clue that was the absolute, inspiration to solving their issue. They were just like blown away by it, and they were like, "Oh my God, how did you do that?" And I was just like, "Oh, if you just knew I was buying shoes online." When I was asked to present this, I hesitated. I was like, do I have something to say? Is this going to be interesting enough? Are my slides good enough? No, 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 no. Little did I know that someone was going to be listening to this. And I still get, a lot of people that were in the audience who are like, I remember this talk, So if you're
Incredible.
having that nagging little piece of work in your head that is called the imposter syndrome, telling you, no, I shouldn't present. No, I shouldn't do that. Blah. It's going to open doors, and even if you make mistakes, just go for it. Just go, I don't want to listen to this, just challenge accepted and go for it and prepare and get nervous and whatever you want. But sometimes it opens doors. And the person who listened to this talk at UX Beers, he basically recommended me to work at Google. And I never knew about it until 2 years later when he left. And he was like, I remember this talk you gave. And I was like,
Wow.
really? So you never know the doors that are going to open up when you take a risk. And when you're there to genuinely serve, people sort of feel that vibe, the good vibes.
Yeah.
And it just goes, you pay it forward. So if there's anything that you're stopping yourself from doing, unless it's like jumping out of a plane, which I would, probably do sometime. If there's anything stopping you and not wanting to go and take that other step, just maybe this is a sign of the universe you needed, so go for it. I wouldn't be here if I didn't do that.
Yeah, that's the power of the yes, right? Sometimes just saying yes.
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 All right. Well, that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much, Nuria, for joining my very first episode. For the audience, I would love to have you back. There's another episode coming up really shortly. I'll be announcing it on all the socials. So make sure to tune in. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section and I'll get back to you. Thanks, everyone. Bye, Nuria.